Welcome to another episode of the Sports Sentiment. I am your host, Nick Urias, and we are back once again talking college football. That is right, folks. We are switching gears from college basketball to college football. It's crossover season. College basketball season officially started Monday, November 3rd. Yesterday, from the time we're recording this on a Tuesday afternoon out here in the Bay Area. Look, it's a crazy time of year between college basketball and college football. I'm still trying to get, just myself acclimated to the overwhelming transition of college hoops being back. Seeing over 100 games on the board was pretty frightening yesterday. But hey, you either adapt or you get left behind, right? So I'm going to make sure that we do not get left behind in this thing. We're going to be reporting all things Mountain West throughout the entirety of the season. Look forward to everyone coming along for the ride. And look, we got college football. We're starting to, turn the corner, on the final, 100 meters of the season per se. Things are heating up in this league. It's week 10. This was kind of the week of carnage where tons of upsets. Fresno goes into Boise State, pulls off an upset. San Jose State gets back on the right track versus Hawaii. San Diego State continues to dominate. And then New Mexico continues to be one of the bigger surprises in the Mountain West. Look, our business today, we're going to talk week 10 of the Mountain West. We're going to go through some results. I'm going to talk about some top 25 noteworthy results as well. And then we're going to transition very briefly into the Mountain West week 11 matchups as well. So let's hop right into this thing. Let's start out with San Jose State versus Hawaii. I was on the air for this very matchup between the Spartans and the Rainbow Warriors. Very fun game. San Jose State's played some very fun games this year, no doubt. It's been pretty crazy. This is just another one of those games where it turns into a shootout, which I think Spartan fans have been accustomed to seeing that. If there's a good offense on the other side, and you're going to see a lot of points and a whole lot of them, especially the way that the Spartan offense is going right now. SJSU victorious 45-38. Just overall a fun game. And I have to say, just for being a radio broadcaster, it's when I get to call these games in San Jose, man, have these games just been electrifying. Because last year, look, San Jose State had themselves a very good I would say very good defense, but a respectable defense where they're going to get their stops. They're going to force some takeaways. It wasn't leaking oil how it is this year. The defense has been very alarming. Anyone that's monitored just SJSU football this season, I think, knows that. In particular, the secondary continues to struggle between Jalen Thomas, Jalen Boehner, and Jalen Applett-Williams. Not to single those three guys out, but I think just overall it's just been a collective problem on defense where too many missed tackles, too many busted coverages, the communication not being there. I think that goes back a few weeks ago to Utah State. And first and foremost, just getting out of this way, apologies for not coming on last week for week 9 to recap the games. Was feeling a little bit under the weather coming back from Vegas, and we got the college basketball preview, barely survived that one, and then was just game planning for the game to broadcast SJSU versus Hawaii. So apologies for that. We'll be back on our normal schedule, but yeah, I mean, this defense right now, despite the win, is still problematic. The flip side, the offense is playing like one of the best offenses in the Mountain West, and I think you're going to start to see right now, we're into the point of the season. We're 10 weeks into the season now. And most teams have been on one bye. San Jose State's been on 2 byes now. You kind of are who you are, right? And we're starting to see that right now, where San Jose State's offense was sluggish versus Central Michigan, expected to be sluggish versus Texas. Slowly saw some good positivity versus Idaho, turned the corner versus Stanford, and really has kind of carried over, since then. And you could say every game following Stanford has really gotten better. Sure, the Wyoming game was weird. right? Walker Eget goes out. Everybody's in scramble mode with the quarterback. Scudero gets hurt. Utah State, the same thing. Eget looked fine. Like he looked healthy versus Utah State, even though he really wasn't. Scudero was banged up, could barely lift his arms, didn't practice the Utah State game. Needed the bye week, didn't practice, was a full go all week through Hawaii, going into Hawaii, and he looked healthy, if you can't tell by the numbers. 7 catches, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. Regardless, unbelievable stuff from the offense. I mean, you've seen it. 603 total yards, most certainly going to get it done. I mean, it's been pretty crazy, and I think what's even more of a green flag in all of this is the fact that you're getting 145 rushing yards. The fact that you could get Radcliffe and Steve Chavez Soto to get the workload that they did on the ground, I think is even more positivity, because I think that's what everybody's been waiting for. SJSU fans, under Craig Stutzman spread and shred. Sure, we know the air raid's going to be on fire, and when it's going, it's clicking. But when you could really rely on a run game in the fourth quarter to really truncate the game and slow things down and take away possessions, you're gonna be able to do some good things and be able to close out games. And I think that's a really good thing going. The beauty about Radcliffe and Steve Chavez Soto, and really the Steve Chavez Soto story is, it was a good story, but now it's really starting to blossom into a real impact piece with this kid, right? And the cool thing is that you got 2 different backs, right? You got Lamar Radcliffe, who is just gonna smash it in your face. He's taken a few people out this year, just because of he just runs with so much physical force. He's kind of your guy, right? If no one's watched him, you need a yard, you smash it with Radcliffe. Steve Chavez Soto, he can run it outside the numbers, and that guy's just got really good vision. And he had a really good run versus Hawaii where he dived for the pylon, because he was running outside the numbers, kind of broke his way like towards the outside, and really had a good finish of the play at the pylon to get that football over the goal line. So you kind of get 2 different backs. They're style of backs, and you could use them on whatever down and distance, on whatever personnel you think's going to bring back on the other side for defense. So the running back duo here, not what we envisioned coming into the season, no doubt, but this is kind of the best version of the run game that we're getting right now with these 2 backs. So that is a good sign for San Jose State. Walker Eget, I mean, he's playing like the best quarterback in the Mountain West, right up there, I would probably say, with like Anthony Calandria right now. He's just 20 for 40, not the best from a completion attempt percentage. But the numbers from that area, he was like 3 for 12 to start out in the game. And, Hawaii threw some stuff at him. I think he was throwing too many fastballs early. He kind of came out firing. He seemed too juiced up in the moment, to start out the game versus Hawaii, because there was some balls where, he threw one, I think, to Scholes, and then I think one to Scudero, each of the wide receivers, and, they all 3 of them couldn't handle it. I think what really sprung the Spartan offense going, because they were stalling the first 2 drives, was the Landon Sims fumble, Hawaii running back. The Landon Sims fumble, like right behind midfield, like at the minus 45-yard line, was big, really got the offense running. And, we talked about the run game from a Hawaii perspective. Defensively, I was very shocked of their performance, not because they gave up 45 points. Forget about that. Because I didn't really like the matchup for them coming in. I was just a little surprised how undisciplined they were in this game. They had 11 penalties overall for 80 yards. They had like 5 offside penalties on my count. They had like back-to-back offside penalties that basically gifted SJSU like 10 free yards. Like, didn't even run a play for like, I don't know, literally, because there were so many penalties on one drive for Hawaii. That was pretty alarming, because Dennis Thurman's defense has been pretty well disciplined. That was shocking to me. And I think that's credit uh to Walker Egan just getting the ball out so quick. They want to get a head start with that offensive line because, he's getting the ball out so quick and he's just so quick with the reads right now. Egan's just really playing with that much confidence and he knows what to do with the football. Um, so I mean, this offense right now for SJSU, it's going to be pretty hard to stop going down the stretch here. Hawaii offensively really impressed me. Not that they didn't impress me like heading into this game because we've talked about it. They've brewed into one of the more cooler stories in the Mountain West, right? Year 4 with Timmy Chang. Expectations were supposed to be there this year. Took advantage of a relatively soft non-conference schedule. Home game for Stanford, Sam Houston State, Portland State. They got out to that 3-1 start. They had the bad spot week 1 technically, but their second game of the year versus Arizona. And they kind of hit the ground running. They've won 2 games on the mainland, right? At Air Force, at Colorado State. They're usually not accustomed to doing that. So the story's been very awesome for this team. And they've kind of won games with their defense, which was why I was shocked with their undisciplined effort in San Jose on Saturday night. But their offense, like they really took advantage of a lackluster secondary. I mean, Jackson Harris, he was kind of like the guy for them heading into this game. Like, okay, he's red hot. Like he's got 3 straight games with 100+ receiving yards. He had that 68-yard explosive. I think it was Jalen Thomas that was in coverage. Thomas or Boehner. I'm forgetting on the top of my head who it was, but he had like that 68-yard touchdown. It was just on a go route. Like it was nothing crazy. And he just basically, burnt him into the end zone. Harris had the 6 catches for 134. Pofele Ashlock, we talked to at Mountain West Media Days, and his confidence and his swagger was through the roof heading into the season. Not cocky at all, but you could tell like year 3 in the pipeline, he was ready for a breakout season. I was really impressed seeing him in person. Just from the box to the field. 7 catches for 104 yards. He had 10 targets in this game. He should have caught all 10 balls. Like he had 2 plays down the sideline, or he was running like a crossing route on both of them, and he couldn't get one foot in before going out of bounds. He had 2 of those overturned in the replay. But watching Micah Alejado in person, like you could tell, like this guy doesn't play like a freshman. Just simply doesn't. He literally looks like a junior out there, junior or senior, with the confidence, the poise that he plays with at the quarterback position. And I mean, he's got complete command of that offense. And it's crazy because I don't want to say that Braden Shager, the previous Hawaii quarterback, didn't have it. But for this guy having it as a freshman, like he's taken this Hawaii run and shoot offense to really a level that Shager never really brought it. And for him to have it as a freshman, it was impressive seeing that in person. And he's not a guy that's typically not going to run a lot at you. Like, look, 4 rushing attempts for 4 yards, but he's got that pocket presence to move it when a play breaks down, extend it for a couple seconds, and then deliver stuff. As far as some other, key components in this game, too much easy chunk yards for Ashlock in the fourth quarter. I personally thought like he was just running like this 15, 20-yard intermediate crosser, and he was getting an easy completion every time. So that's obviously going to get fixed. Hawaii, 3rd down conversion rate. Check out those numbers. I think those are alarming. 9 for 14, and they started out hot in this game from 3rd down. And the 3rd down defense started out pretty solid for SJSU, but I think it's fizzled out into like north of 50% the past, couple weeks now, which isn't, not so great. I'm going to transition into, just some defensive numbers here. youtube.com/@the-sports-sentiment. If you want the stat sheet there, but Jordan Pollard had himself a good game. Caleb Presley got himself tons of run in this game. And I think that was kind of one of the main things here. Like, okay, Boehner's had himself a good statistical season, right? Like he's had the beneficiary of some balls being thrown on his side, and to his credit, he's intercepted some passes. But I think it's right now the offense is so leaky, or the defense is so leaky, and with those defensive backs, I don't blame the coaching staff for trying something different with Caleb Presley. Presley's gotten some very minimal snaps, in conference play and, just overall this season. Remember, he was a late spring transfer, but, he got a decent amount of run in that second half. And, that's something that they're going to totally rely on, heading into this week versus Air Force, week 11. So, they might start out the game with Thomas and Boehner, at the two corners. But don't be shocked if you see a Caleb Presley, if one of or both of those guys struggle to replace, because right now they're looking for options. And right now, I mean, it's taken some astronomical offensive numbers to just win by a touchdown right now. And the Landon Sims fumble was ultimately the difference in this game from a scoreboard standpoint, because you scored a touchdown off that turnover and you only winning by 7. Right? Like that's pretty alarming from a scoreboard standpoint, but you're going to take a win any way you can get it at this time of year, especially with the struggling bunch like San Jose State, who just really hasn't won any of these close games this year. So there is that. How about a 10 for 10 red zone in this game? That's tells you how the state of the defense is, that's for sure. Interestingly, something we've been monitoring was how's SJSU going to handle their fourth down stuff? Like, hey, if it's 4th and 8 in like no man's land and it's like a 40-yard field goal, are they going to go for it? They did, and on I believe it was the opening drive. I think it was like a 4th and 10, and they were gonna attempt like a 44-yard field goal. I would say that ball was placed on the left hash. And how they've been handling things was, if the ball's on the right hash and it's within the Dennis Lynch kicking range, that's how we're going to do things. But right now, it's still a Dennis Lynch kicking field goals, Matthias Brown extra points. That's kind of how they're handling things. Or, if it's on the left hash, they're going to let Brown kick it. And if it's in the center or the right hash, they're going to let Lynch kick it. So they're trying everything with that. Nothing's really changed from what we saw from the Utah State game in that department. But overall, Hawaii, very impressive to see in person offensively. Timmy Chang, like, he's got that program going in the right direction, which I think is, from talking with them and meeting, their crew in person during the off season, you're rooting for cool people like that. This was obviously a big game for San Jose State, not only from just, hey, let's get back on the right track perspective, but also because they had four players, four coaches on the current staff that had some affiliation with University of Hawaii. A lot of guys from the Hawaii area that either coached there or played there. This was a big game for them, and I think under this regime, it always will be. First time they ever played Hawaii, believe it or not. Coach Kenny Amatololo did. They were ready for this one. So, I mean, and SJSU was favored in this game, like a 2-win team favored over a 6-win team. Should have told you what you needed to know. Like, SJSU was in a favorable spot in this situation. Just looking into this game and like, okay, if you're going to get one flat spot from Hawaii come into the mainland, it might have been this game, right? But overall, SJSU is going to have to pivot to Air Force, another high-flying offense. Should expect a whole lot of points there. We're going to dive into that game in a little bit. We should also mention as well, Steve Chavez Soto, freshman running back for San Jose State. Freshman of the week in the Mountain West. Mountain West Players of the Week, Walker Egan on offense. Second time winning the award as well. 458 yards, 2 TDs. Good stuff from SJSU. Now they improved to 3-5 and 2-2 in the Mountain West. Hawaii 6-3 and 3-2 in the Mountain West. Let's go to Wyoming and San Diego State. Wyoming and San Diego State. we'll head to next. 24-7 Aztec victory. San Diego State now 7-1 overall, 4-0 in the Mountain West. Meanwhile, now 4-5 and 2-3 in the Mountain West are the Wyoming Cowboys. Emotional win for Wyoming last week, winning the border war against a broken Colorado State team, which I think has been well documented now with no more Coach Jay Norvell and Matt Mumme calling the plays. Tyson Summers, the defensive coordinator, now the interim head coach, trying to run this operation. It's craziness right now in Fort Collins. And, just being the rivalry aspect of that one, being in Laramie, Wyoming was in a good spot there. Now, a 28-0 victory over the CSU Rams. Now you're going to play the best defense, statistically in the league. And I think eye test wise in the league, like not the best situation. In this game, San Diego State, they didn't play the best offensive game. Like, this game was kind of stuck at 14-7 for a long while. I was, getting ready for, to mosey my way to San Jose, the CEFQ Stadium. They had this game on in the box in the second half. Was preparing for the game and kind of, watching it from the side while also watching the World Series Game 7 on the other TV. So a whole lot of stuff going on. But from the stuff that I did see, Jaden Denegal didn't really have the greatest game in the world, but when you have an elite defense like what he has, you could kind of get away with it, right? Lucky Sutton was the guy for the Aztecs on the ground, 28 rushing attempts, 158 yards and a touchdown, over 5 yards a carry against a good Cowboy rush defense. That was what really impressed me. San Diego State's offensive line's been rock solid all year. Denegal looks for a large majority of the season has looked poised in this Aztec fast offense. And look, all of these games versus Wyoming, like, they're going to be low scoring. Even when they're on the road, like, they're not going to look the greatest offensively, but that you're going to get a feisty effort from them defensively. Even though under Jay Sawveld, they've lost a lot of these games. So, like, a 24-7 Aztec victory, kind of like what you would expect, like, going into this game. Like, okay, might be a little bit difficult for San Diego State because of what they have on the other side, but you would expect them to pull away when it was all said and done, and they did. Caden Anderson, 3 interceptions for Wyoming. Not good. The team really hasn't cracked the code on this Aztec defense yet. Very curious. We'll dive into week 11. But maybe that's the spot for Hawaii, going back to the island and San Diego State traveling there where something may have to give. And even Washington State, the one loss that they have on the season for San Diego State, go watch like the middle eights of that game, like the final 4 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, because it was a 1-score game, and then all of a sudden it evaporated to like a 3-score game. And then, like, it was just too much for San Diego State to get back in things. I'm interested for San Diego State, and I'm waiting for them to really be in this situation, because they really haven't been in it yet. When they are trailing, and I'm talking to Mountain West play, if they're trailing in a game, are they capable of coming back, right? Like, if the defense kind of has like a sleepy performance, right? They're not up to speed, can Denegal take you on a game-winning drive? We really haven't seen it yet. And I think we're going to see it potentially down the stretch here. And that's what we're going to learn about this team. We're going to learn, Sean Lewis has done a terrific job coaching this team. But that's when we're going to see that. I'm waiting for them to be in that scenario in Mountain West play. And who knows if we see it? I think we will within the next 3 games, because they're going to start playing some really good offenses now. And I think, that's when we're going to see not how real San Diego State is, because it's pretty evident with their record and the way that they're dominating defensively. They're a real bunch, and they're a real player for the Mountain West Championship now. But we're going to see in just a different scenario, how they handle things, because I do think we could still learn a little bit more about that team in that aspect of things. And we said Denegal 2 INTs, 1 in the red zone, not great, but when you force 3 INTs on Wyoming. And Wyoming, we should mention, their touchdown came on the opening drive if you didn't catch this game. So that might have just been the sleepy drive for the Aztecs, because they really moved down the field pretty quick. And then they had a trick play touchdown. Wyoming did. One of their backup quarterback threw it, which was pretty interesting. So that's that. A notable injury for San Diego State defensively. Tato Lutuli, their linebacker, their Mike linebacker, exited the game, was on crutches in the second half. Just a massive blow for their defense. And I know that they've been without him, but going down the stretch without him on a championship, on a chase for a championship, and trying to climb the mountain in the Mountain West, you're going to need that guy. And who knows what that injury looks like. I mean, if you're on crutches and you're not returning to the game and you're in street clothes, that's a red flag to me. So that is no good for San Diego State. They've been without him, but you kind of want as many reinforcements and as many leaders as you can get. And that's an upperclassman that's been in the pipeline for this Aztec defense. Fresno State and Boise State, we're going to pivot to this matchup, and holy Toledo. Boise State gets dismantled 30-7. Boise State's 18-game home unbeaten streak officially gone. Now the Broncos 6-3 overall and 4-1 in Mountain West play. The Bulldogs with this 23-point victory, now 6-3 overall, bowl eligible, and 3-2 in the Mountain West. So now climbing their way back into this Mountain West championship chase. Fresno State was just hands down the better team in this game, and they wanted it more. I mean, last time I think they were on the blue turf was in that Mountain West championship game a few years back, and Jake Haener was at quarterback. So it's been some time, and Jake Haener was at quarterback and really just took the Boise State defense to the woodshed. And, he shredded them and he carved them up, but Fresno kind of won this game with their defense and their special teams. You already know, like, for me, anytime you get a big special teams play, you got to immediately mark it down, because ultimately, I think those special teams plays, the block punts, the blocked field goals, those are momentum swings. And you see it all the time, right? Where, those miscues and those type of plays don't happen that often. When they do, it could flip a game upside down. And I thought that's exactly what happened. Obviously, Maddox Matson getting hurt in this game changed the entire dynamic of it. Boise State starting quarterback. But Jason Jack's blocked field goal, I think that was like in the second quarter when this game was stuck at like 7-7 for a little while. That is when, I'm like, okay, Fresno's really in this. Like, they came to play today. Because I thought heading in, with all due respect, that Boise State was just going to come in and smash them, especially the way Fresno State looked for San Diego State's defense the week prior, and the way that Carson Conklin got, just thrown into this thing at quarterback, which, we said during the preseason that if you're looking for a style of quarterback that Matt Entz really liked, and just from his North Dakota State days, it was the Carson Conklin type quarterback, right? And that's why I said, don't be shocked if you see some Carson Conklin time, even if EJ Warner didn't get hurt, which I'm at this point of the season, it's like, I'm still kind of surprised by the fact that EJ Warner got benched, because sure, the Colorado State loss was alarming, going in there and just getting absolutely pummeled. But I didn't think they would just pull the plug on Warner, just because they had a close game versus Nevada and a blowout loss versus Colorado State. Like, I thought he was just doing just fine, commanding this offense. But, now they want to play a certain way with Conklin. Certainly Warner's passing, arm and his veteranship and him being around for a long while is much more valuable than what Carson Conklin brings, right? Sac State transfer, was a backup there behind Caden Bennett. Got some time due to injury. And, now is just like, was fighting for the job, with EJ Warner and, Jaden Mandel, right? And all of a sudden he's just kind of thrown in here for, EJ Warner, not really playing terrible. It's just the offense was kind of just, going through its lulls. So pretty shocked by that. But, look, if Fresno State's defense. I mean, if you're looking for like a really good offseason move that really hasn't been talked about enough, Nick Benedetto, defensive coordinator for the Bulldogs. And remember, he came over from Northern Illinois, had that MAC defense, very feisty with the Huskies in DeKalb, right? I mean, Northern Illinois pulled off that Notre Dame upset last year in South Bend, one of the more bigger upsets in all of the sport last year. And that was the guy commanding the defense. So he could coach a defense, no doubt. Now, Max Cutforth being the Boise State backup quarterback kind of throws everything in a loop here, right? But I mean, the Bulldogs defense led by Simeon Harris, as you see on our ticker, 6 total tackles, 3 TFLs, a fumble, a forced fumble, an INT. That's getting it done as an individual. But I just thought this whole defense was just a step ahead of what Boise State was doing. And I understand, right? Max Cutforth, difficult situation, but he came in versus Air Force in the conference opener, and he moved the ball. Now a different defense and a different situation. Like you're starting to see, like Air Force's defense is statistically the worst in the league, and Fresno's is pretty sharp. So it's a much more different dynamic. But being on the blue turf, you were able to still rely on your ground game at a certain point in this game. And Fresno's physicality on the defensive end, they were just more prepared, they were just more ready, and they were just more hungry. And you got to tip your cap to those guys. I mean, Carson Conklin, Fresno State quarterback. Like, this is what I'm telling you with it's very interesting with the EJ Warner situation. And I'd be interested to, hear what the Fresno State media has to say about this, and just people within those that are, tied into those circles. Because Conklin, like, they didn't win the game because of him. 10 for 21, 35 yards. And, he was able to extend some plays. I think that's what Matt Entz likes about him, is his mobility. Because EJ Warner doesn't really have it. He is strictly a pocket passer. When a play breaks down, he might be able to give you like an extra second, but Conklin could really extend it and take off with his feet, right? He can extend a play at 3 extra seconds and then go scamper for 15 yards upfield. We've seen it. I've seen it in a Sac State uniform. So, that's maybe another layer to the offense that maybe the coaching staff is looking for out there in Fresno, but just kind of shocking by the move. I didn't think they did him any favor starting him at first career Fresno State start last week versus San Diego State, and you saw the results there. So, but boy, the Bulldogs ground attack, we've talked about it, that they've been a run the damn ball team. 47 rushing attempts, 189 yards, 3 TDs. That's getting it done. Rayshawn Luke looked really solid, stiff arming defenders like crazy. I thought Donaldson, just complimenting him behind him, right? You never really know. Is it going to be a Donaldson game? Is it going to be a Luke game? Things have kind of been, switching. It's been fluctuating based on the matchup. But when you're getting 5 and 4 yards a carry from those two backs all together, you're doing something right. I know the left tackle Braden Walton got injured at Hawaii. He came back and he seems well solidified. And now Boise State. So now you're 6-3 overall. You're clearly erased from the college football playoff conversation. And I think, quite frankly, San Diego State, they might have to win out, and you might need some, the American Athletic Conference to do some damage against each other, which, they're certainly doing that right now. I'm going to certainly dive into that. But, I mean, Boise State's college football playoff spot is pretty much out of the picture right now until further notice. And, I mean, they're going to be fighting just to win the Mountain West championship game, because this league is wide open now from a standing perspective. So, and, you see a team like Fresno State, like Boise State slips along the way. The Maddox Matson injury doesn't look too promising either. Boise is on a bye, which certainly helps that. And I think we'll know a little bit more about the situation in a week. But when you see Matson, getting carted off and he's got a towel over his head, not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. And we'll certainly monitor the Max Cut Force situation, how he looks out there, taking first team reps. And not to give Boise State any excuses either, but just from a personnel standpoint, like they rely on the ground game a ton in that offensive line. But they lost Ben Ford, their backup tight end, who was doing some really good things. He was having a career year for them. Him being out, and I don't know what the hell is up with Chris Marshall at wide receiver. But this guy just, I mean, like he was a scratch because of, disciplinary stuff amongst the program. So he's gotten tons of chances now. He's been around the block. This is second year at Boise State. He was at Ole Miss. He was at a junior college team, at a junior college school. He was somewhere else before that, I believe. Like, he's been around the block, and he's been around multiple different stops. And I think it's just simply a character issue. But this guy, like, when he's out there on the field, you see the capabilities of what he can bring to the table. But I don't know. He just can't seem to get on the field for reasons outside of football. So we're gonna see how this all pans out. But with the Boise State result and the Boise State starting quarterback Maddox Matson going out and for who knows how long, certainly puts the Mountain West on high alert, because Boise State was the overwhelming preseason favorite, and now, with that injury and that loss, Boise, if they make the Mountain West championship game, very well could be on the road, or they might not make it altogether. So that's that, and that is a massive result. New Mexico at UNLV, fun game, 40-35. The New Mexico Lobos get it done at Allegiant Stadium. The Lobos now 6-3 overall, bowl eligible for Jason X Group, and 3-2 in Mountain West play. UNLV, the Rebs, now 6-2 overall, 2-2 in the Mountain West. Now suffered back-to-back losses at Boise State and at home versus the Lobos. New Mexico was up 21-0 in this game. Jack Lane was poised. Looked like he knew what he was doing out there. Damon Bankston had himself a game. One of their running backs, but is kind of one of those pass-catching backs. He's been very productive for the Lobos this year. Was very impressed when I saw him in person. So Damon Bankston had himself like an 88-yard explosive in this game. Look, the book's been out on UNLV's defense with Paul Gunther. Like, it can't tackle, it can't cover. It's very similar to in a sense, San Jose State's defense. Like, everyone's kind of waiting for it to get corrected, and it just really isn't right now. And you're kind of understanding like the situation. Like, it's like, okay, these offenses are going to have to outscore the opposition and pray that the defense makes a stop, or the offense just makes one extra touchdown drive than the other team. So that didn't happen this game. New Mexico, I think overall, if you've monitored the Lobos, if you've watched them play, well coached, well disciplined. I think you saw it week 1 versus Michigan. In the spots that they were supposed to win, they kind of like went through it a little bit, right? Like, they had the close win versus Nevada. They had a close win versus Idaho State. It was, tight for a half against New Mexico State, and then they pulled away. But it's games like this, right? When they're in that kind of underdog role is where they really flourish, is when they really come to play, right? They were an underdog at UCLA. UCLA is a completely different team from when they saw 3 weeks ago. Or, UCLA is a completely different team now from week 3 when they saw them. But they were an underdog in that game, and that was a game on paper that they weren't supposed to win. And on paper, they weren't kind of supposed to win this game. They were an underdog going into it. Was New Mexico's offense going to really go toe-to-toe with UNLV's offense with Calandria and company? People probably didn't believe that, even though there's been a lot of praise for Jason X coaching job this year. But, UNLV, this offense is very fun to watch. With Corey Dennis, offensive coordinator. just because they're going to touch the ball a jillion times and their defense is going to give up some points. It's good for TV. It's not good for, the players involved and the coaching staff and, the fans in attendance, right? They'd much rather have, these one-sided games and, win with margin, right? Only does good for all parties involved. But, when you're watching on these games on TV, the UNLV game is making one of the screens because you're going to expect fireworks. UNLV, their offense, I feel like they've bounced back from these 2-possession deficits all year. And they did, in the early going, they did because they were down 21-0, and then they took a lead like in the fourth quarter. Yeah, 35-34 lead with 6.5 minutes to go in the fourth. But New Mexico just kind of made that one, extra trip down the field to score the touchdown. An interesting kind of little move that New Mexico did in this game was bringing in James Lobstein, the backup quarterback, much more of a running quarterback, which I think adds a layer that Jack Lane doesn't have because Lane's not really good on his feet. And Lobstein just kept carving it up. And, he led the team in rushing when it was all said and done. So that was a really good move by Jason Eck and company to kind of install Lobstein into the game plan in week 10 at Allegiant Stadium because clearly it worked. And right now, I mean, we're clearly on a collision course for Jason Eck versus Sean Lewis for Mountain West Coach of the Year. And it's going to come right down to the wire because both of those guys have done terrific jobs. And I don't know who most people would probably lean with Sean Lewis right now, just because San Diego State having the record that they have. But man, Jason Eck has been right there behind him for what he's done. And let's credit New Mexico even more because they got wide receiver injuries as well. Two of their guys got injured at San Jose State, so they're really relying on Keegan Johnson, their wide receiver, like Dorian Thomas, their tight end. And now you got like Damon Bankston kind of being a wide receiver too, even though he's technically a running back. Like they're really maximizing everything with their personnel right now. And Keegan Johnson at 158 receiving yards. That's a career high, including an 80-yard explosive for a touchdown. So whole lot of good stuff from New Mexico in this game. And look, UNLV had a chance for the win. Because this game, they were down 5 with the potential to go on that game-winning drive, and I thought potentially we were going to see it. But a guy that I think has been I wouldn't say a game wrecker, but has been just a timely guy for New Mexico on the defensive side that's been making plays for them all year that really hasn't gotten enough praise. Keyshawn James Newby, their defensive end, just hasn't been enough praise for him on the line of scrimmage this year. He's a transfer from Idaho. So this was a Jason Eck, prized possession coming through the portal. And he's been a guy that, might not impact things on the stat sheet. He might have a lot of TFLs, but he is always getting pressure. He can drop out in coverage and make a play for you. And he had a big time sack on Anthony Calandria late in the game that really just flipped the entire, potential game-winning drive deep in UNLV territory because it turned into like 3rd and 20-something, and then you're like, okay, Calandria has a really good year, but I don't think he could even pull this off. So, also another side note on UNLV's offense, Jet Thomas, like, I don't know what's going on with this. He has to be playing on injury. And it's just really like not panning out. Like they're having him on the field, but you would think that this guy would be getting north of 25 carries a game. And I think Calandria has been playing such at a high level that maybe things have kind of changed that. And Calandria could kind of take off on his own with his, with his own number and make things happen. But I thought they would rely on Jet Thomas a whole lot more this year. Only 11 more rushing attempts Thomas has than Calandria this year. That's kind of crazy if you ask me. So something to circle for the Rebels. They're at Colorado State this week on the road. Before we move on to week 11, we got Army and Air Force. Always enjoy watching the academies going at it. I know Army's had themselves a down year compared to what they were last year, American Athletic Champions. Like now, they'll be lucky to crack a bowl game. Army wins the game though, 20-17. Air Force 2-6 overall. This was a non-conference game, but man, they're like just deep in the watering hole right now, 1-4 in the Mountain West. Every Air Force game this year kind of just seems to end the same way, right? Where their defense kind of just lets them down and they just kind of allowed that explosive at the wrong time. Like it happened versus Navy with that wide receiver. I'm forgetting the guy's name on the top of my head. He's had a terrific year. Yeah, I'm forgetting on the top of my head. But Navy's wide receiver 1 did it versus Air Force. The Army receiver they just hit him over the top, and the Air Force DB was just a step behind. Like, I feel like they've all ended that way for Air Force, and it stinks because they got such a ridiculously fun offense with Liam Zarka that I can't wait to watch this weekend in San Jose. But man, Zarka, he had 2 interceptions in this game. I thought both of them were forced bad throws. Zarka hasn't been the cleanest. They're throwing a whole lot more Air Force has this year. But some of these throws and some of the deep ball is awesome for Zarka. Like he's hitting it at a high rate this year. But man, sometimes when he has like those 15-yard dig routes, he kind of holds the ball for too long, and then it turns into an interception, right? Like the play breaks down, and then on a play where he should take off, he ends up throwing it. So the decision making hasn't been great there. But man, Air Force is just a step behind in some of these games, and it's unfortunate that their defense just really hasn't been up to the rescue this year for them. Man, we don't really see this from Calhoun's teams. This is year 19 for him. He really hasn't had back-to-back bad years. And look, they went 5-7 overall, but really started out slow last year. And man, this year they can't win a 1-score game to save their life. Transitioning into or actually, before we do that, let's talk about some noteworthy top 25 Week 10 results. Stuff for the college football playoff. This is like ACC stuff that I had written down on the notes from Saturday. Yeah, Georgia Tech goes down at NC State, 48-36. Tech, man, as good as Brent Key at coaches and how good he orchestrates things and preaches this underdog mentality that Georgia Tech's kind of been playing with Haynes King and Jamal Haynes. Man, they always have one of these silly losses every year. And it was unfortunate because I was kind of waiting for it to come. I was like, man, they always have one of these. And I think we almost saw it at Wake Forest. Like they were down 3 scores and came back at Wake Forest, won in overtime. And Wake Forest was ready to storm the field out in Winston-Salem. But this was the game at NC State where they were just trailing the whole game, and then they just ran out of possessions there. So Georgia Tech, I mean, you downgrade them a little bit, but man, when that's the thing though. When they play the Clemsons, when they play Miami, when they play any of these upper echelon ACC teams, buckle up. And I can't wait to watch that Georgia Tech-Georgia game this year because I think for how the game ended last year, going to 8-9 overtimes, Georgia Tech is live to win that game this year. Vanderbilt, man, the magic carpet ride finally runs out for Vanderbilt. They almost won this game despite, trailing the whole time. And this game seemed like it was done like in the third quarter. And then Vanderbilt comes storming back. Like they nearly recovered the onside kick to potentially, go out and, either tie or take the lead there. But man, you got to respect, despite the loss for number 9 Vanderbilt heading into this game. This Diego Pavia, there's just no quitting the guy. And number 20 Texas gets it done. Texas, man, that defense is elite, but that offense, like this was the best the offense has really looked in the SEC play. So maybe they've turned the corner. Who knows? With Arch Manning and company, maybe DeAndre Moore and some of those other wide receivers like Parker Livingston, they've kind of like figured it out. The offensive line for Texas, which I know a lot of folks out there in Austin have been preaching it's got to be better. One of their better one of their better games on the line of scrimmage. But yeah, big result out there in the SEC. Number 10, Miami. So can you believe we were in week 10 this past week? Miami never traveled outside the state of Florida. That's just unbelievable to me. Like, how did they manage to get that on the schedule? And of course, in pure Mario Cristobal fashion, when they finally traveled outside the state, they go down in defeat, losing 26-20. This is just classic Cristobal. Like, this is exactly what happened last year, right? Where he's cruising with Cam Ward. They're getting saved by the ACC Replay Center. And then their luck finally runs out. And I wouldn't even say their luck runs out. But man, like when he's like a double-digit favorite in some of these games, like on the road or against like a not so great ACC opponent, they find a way to lose. And it's crazy to me. And as their personnel is good, like you're going to see come the NFL draft, they're going to send so many guys in the first and second round. And it's just crazy to me how under Cristobal, like they just come unprepared in some of these games. Because losing at SMU, like SMU boosted their program. They were in the college football playoff last year. Very fun team to watch with Kevin Jennings and Brashard Smith and Rhett Lashley calling plays. But man, this is just not the same SMU team this year. And they're good defensively, but not the same offensively this year. That's a loss you can't take. And I mean, that completely downgrades Miami. They're probably not going to even make the ACC championship. And remember, everybody had this team power rated in their top 3 and around week 5, how the mighty have fallen. Number 13, Texas Tech. This is a team that continues to impress me because I know Texas Tech's been battling injuries. Like their starting running back got hurt in the preseason. And I understand it's a portal team. Like they bought all their talent, la-di-da-di-da. But the way that they fight on the line of scrimmage, the way that Jacob Rodriguez at linebacker, this guy's punching out 2 fumbles. He's got 2 forced fumbles a week, it seems like, every time I watch these Tech games. Like, their pursuit on these ball carriers, these wide receivers, the running backs, their technique is so strong. They're so well coached. I talked about their offensive coordinator, Matt Leftwich, a few weeks ago. Like, this is a name to circle, on the coaching carousel. Maybe not this offseason, but maybe the following year on a guy that could be leading one of these fun G5 programs or something. Texas Tech, you got a big one versus BYU, but going into the Little Apple to win 43-20, I know they dressed it up late, but the Little Apple is a tough place to play. And going into Manhattan, Kansas, and beating the K-State Wildcats, who weren't great to start out the season, but started playing better in Big 12 play. Very impressive for the Red Raiders. If they can just stay healthy with that quarterback, Baron Morton, keep an eye on the Red Raiders in the big picture. And one more on the way out here for the top 25 stuff. Number 22, Houston. Just a silly loss against West Virginia. Willie Fritz's defense didn't show up against a West Virginia team that really hasn't had a pulse outside of the backyard brawl versus Pitt. That just can't happen. You lose 45-35. You're chasing the whole game. West Virginia in control. That is a terrible loss for Houston. And they could control their own destiny heading into this game if they just continue to win games that they were supposed to as far as the Big 12 championship is concerned. Now it's an uphill battle, and they're going to need some help along the way. Speaking of a championship race, we got ourselves a really good one in the American Athletic right now. A 6-way tie in the loss column with Navy, Memphis, North Texas, Tulane, South Florida, and East Carolina. Craziness in this conference right now. North Texas got the big win of the week against the Navy midshipmen, and Navy's been a fun team to watch, right? With Brian Newberry, and how he's gotten this team, into the 8-9 win mark since he's been there. And North Texas, who's brewing into just one of the more bigger surprises in the sport this year. The fact that they could be in the college football playoff. Nobody saw this coming for what everyone had valued as like a middle of the pack AAC team this year. The fact that North Texas is on the top of this thing, has got some quality wins Overall, they're smashing teams and they're putting up points like north of 40 a game. And they have a multi-score. They won this game with margin against Navy. Defensively, they got back on the right track after allowing like nearly 70 like a couple weeks ago to South Florida. That is a dangerous team with Drew Mestamaker and that coach Eric Morris. He's getting promoted. So that American Athletic race, the American Athletic Conference, that whole race is pretty nuts. So I guess like your G5 game of the week, I would throw down two of them, the notable games in this conference: UTSA at USF, and then Tulane at Memphis. UTSA had a big win versus Tulane. Like last week, on the Friday night game. Tulane looks a little fool's gold to me now. Not really looking impressive. They barely beat Army. They had some fluky wins kind of in their resume, where, they were kind of barely getting out of town with some of these games. They're at Memphis. I think Memphis exposed them this week. But UTSA, they're really starting to heat up now. Like, that offense is really starting to hum. I'd expect a whole lot of points in that game in Tampa, Florida this week at Raymond James Stadium with the South Florida team led by Alex Golish. Let's go back to the Mountain West. Mountain West Week 11, some notable games. Or not notable games, but all the games. San Jose State at Air Force, the first one that will be, going off out in San Jose. So San Jose State and Air Force, SJSU's offense is humming. Air Force's has been rock solid pretty much all year, outside of, maybe a couple situations. Interestingly, San Jose State's never been favored in the series. They are on this week. So that's something very interesting. And ultimately, I just think this game's going to just be an all-out shootout. I think 1st to 35 wins it, and I think the winner is going to have probably more than that. Some interesting notes, I would say, just from hearing the coaching staff talk about the matchup today. And, I asked Coach Ken this on his weekly Tuesday presser, because Air Force has been throwing the ball way more this year compared to years past. And he said it's all got to do with Liam Zarka. Like, he understands, like, Zarka has the arm strength, and it's not like it was one of these ordeals last year with John Boucher where, they were kind of forcing the ball out of Boucher, and a lot of that was because, they were down in a lot of these possessions, but probably shouldn't have been forcing it, in like a one-score game and such with him. But Zarka can really throw it, and that's changed their whole offense and how they set things up. Now Air Force really spreads things out on an offense that was so reliant on the fullback dive, and with the fullback kind of being number one option, you got to circle him, because if you're not aware in how you game plan for this triple option, if you don't stop the fullback dive, you're screwed. As far as like, look, you got the dive going and you're getting 7 yards of carry for it. Okay. Now the quarterback can run over the hashes, keep it himself, or he could pitch it to the running back. And that's what got SJSU in trouble 2 years ago in San Jose, and when they lost like 45-20, because it was a game, it was like a touchdown lead for San Jose State at halftime, and then Air Force went on like a 12-minute drive, a touchdown drive, where they able to slow down the game and still run for all these yards, completely took the offense off script, and it just becomes a nightmare and frustration for all of these offenses when they're just sitting on the sideline and the defense is getting worn out. So that's why the fullback dive is so important in every single time you play Air Force. But interestingly, Coach Ken said today that, the fullback dive, it's obviously still noteworthy in this offense, but Liam Zarka is probably the number one guy we're circling as far as like, we got to make sure we stop him, because they're kind of relying on shotgun. They're sitting in shotgun a whole lot more pre-snap compared to, this team really just being under center typically 90% of the time, it seems like, over the past few years. So that's I think that's kind of thrown teams in a loop this year. And that's why, Zarka's a really talented quarterback. And, the fact that he's kind of dissecting things, Cade Harris at wide receiver on the same page with him, Bruin Fleischman at tight end, a high character individual, but just as good on the field. So SJSU is going to have their hands full in this game. But if you think this is like the typical triple option offense that we've seen with Air Force over the years, it's not, because Zarka, with his passing capabilities, really throws an additional layer beyond what we've been accustomed to seeing with the Air Force offense. And I think that could be very problematic. I would expect, just for SJSU defense, keep an eye on those linebackers, Jordan Pollard and Taniela Latu. They have this defense, or they have the offense, like they've seen it now 3-4 times now. Derek Odom, here's the deal. Derek Odom actually has always had a pretty good game plan against Troy Calhoun's bunch. So if you are looking for, I would say, like a bounce back performance, this would kind of be one of those, circle the wagon, maybe, spots for this defense where, Derek Odom has just such a good chokehold on the Air Force offense, where, their personnel really kind of goes out there and stops it. Familiarity always helps with this thing, right? And, it's one of those things, like, it seems like an easy offense, like, okay, they just run the ball. But until you really go see it out there and you really stop it, it's a completely different situation. So I'm very interested to see. Air Force's defense has been terrible this year on the back end with the two undersized and the two undersized DBs at the cornerback position, and they're both underclassmen as well. It's just kind of one of those years for Air Force where they're just kind of forced to trot them out there and really learn and grow, and everybody has been taking advantage of it. So I would expect another one of these balanced games for San Jose State. You might not be able to run the ball as well as you did versus Hawaii, but I'll tell you what, you're going to be able to throw for 400 yards plus in this game for San Jose State. And, it could turn into one of those shootouts. I would personally expect it, but now that I'm kind of talking everybody through this game, I wouldn't be shocked if we see a bounce back performance from this defense. But, we just really haven't seen it this year. So until they really prove it, you're just kind of going to expect what you've been seeing with your eyes all year long. So that is that. We should mention as well from that Hawaii game, not to backtrack from that, but the second time all year where San Jose State had 3 receivers with 100 or more receiving yards. They did that last week at Hawaii, or against Hawaii, and then at Stanford. Don't be shocked if you see that again, because right now it's getting to the point where, they could target Scudero a whole lot less. Wide receiver Scudero, Danny Scudero, a whole lot less. And he could just go. So, and, 7 targets and he's going to have 200 yards. It's ridiculous stuff. Nevada at Utah State. So Nevada, interestingly, coming off the bye. We know Nevada has been just an all-out mess this year. They have 0 wins against FBS opponents. Their one win came off a Sac State team with Brennan Marion, who knew the team very well, and they barely won that game. So now Nevada's coming off the bye. Interestingly, they've lost 6 straight off the bye. That's not Jeff Choate's fault. That's going back to previous regimes. And just another side note about this game, only the 6th all-time meeting as Mountain West members. That's pretty interesting, so they don't see each other all too often. I would expect a lower scoring game. Nevada's defense has been very feisty. Jeff Choate, just like how we thought, was going to have him playing hard, but man, this Nevada offense just doesn't have the guns this year. And you're starting to see they're just kind of going through it with the freshmen now and Carter Jones. They're kind of just trying to unlock some of these wide receivers. Their run game, like, is it the same as it was in years past? Right? Like, I remember when they were dominating games with Toa Tawa. Those days are long gone. So, in Utah State, they're at home. This is probably one of those games where they win by 10. Nevada gets out of town with the loss, and it's more lower scoring. I don't know, maybe like 23-10 type thing, 10 to 13 point victory. Utah State doesn't look overly impressive. Their defense has a good performance, but more so in Nevada, bad offense. And then Nevada's defense just feisty enough, playing for a full 60. So that's how I see that one. UNLV and Colorado State. So history's been very poor to the Rebels in this matchup, especially when they're at Colorado State. They have not won over there since 2002. That is just some astronomical stuff. UNLV 0-7. 0-7 straight up the last 7 games. Yeah, that makes sense. Also double-digit losses in all those games. I would expect UNLV to get back on track here. Colorado State's defense, it's Owen Long is awesome. The linebacker position, but man, you just kind of, you got to figure where this team is at right now. They're coming off a bye. Colorado State just is coming off the previous games, coming off the 28-0 border war loss. I'd expect a UNLV win here. This is kind of just a flex your muscles game. UNLV should win this game with margin. I don't even know if Colorado State's offense can expose the Paul Gunther defense. So I'm interested to see if UNLV's defense just has a bounce back performance. I hope they would, just given what the state of the Colorado State team right now heading into week 11. And then one more on the way out. This is the last game of the night, and I am so excited to watch this one between San Diego State and Hawaii. Aztecs have won 5 straight in the series, 11 of the last 13 versus the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. And like I said, I was hinting to this game earlier. This is the kind of the most explosive offense San Diego State's going to be seeing since like week 2, week 3, when they saw Washington State and Cal, right? Hawaii's on the island, which I think just makes the game even more intriguing. San Diego State's got to go over there. I would not be shocked at all if Hawaii pulls off the upset. Dennis Thurman's defense can't play any worse than it did last week. Very interested to see the line of scrimmage play because Jeff Reinbold's defensive line has been awesome this season. Like, they have been one of the better sacking units. And, as far as, just getting to the quarterback and finishing the play in all of Mountain West. So this offensive line, is going to throw teams in a loop. I could very easily see this game going exactly how Hawaii versus Utah State went, where everyone's expecting an easy Utah State cruise control victory for San Diego State this week, kind of going that same script. And then Hawaii just kind of gets some of these takeaways and throws the game completely upside down. This is going to be a tough game for Jaden Denegal. Going to the island, you could get, a little lackadaisical on the island, right? Beautiful beach, beautiful weather. Just saying. I'm very excited to see this one. And for Micah Alejado, this is the most real defense maybe since Arizona that you're going to be seeing all year. I'm interested to just see this one for both sides because I think it could be a very good learning experience for both of these teams, win or lose. And Hawaii, you win this game, you're back in the Mountain West Championship conversation. So probably the most intriguing game of the week, probably the most fun game to watch, San Jose State and Air Force, because you could very well see 85 points combined in that game. But overall, fun time of the season in the Mountain West, especially with all the high stakes games that we got going on. It's completely wide open. Somebody can easily backdoor this thing if they get hot. We're going to be monitoring it all along the way here. So should be fun. We'll be watching the games week 11 in the Mountain West, all around college football. College basketball, as far as what we got going on, we got some college hoops games tonight as we're recording this on a Tuesday. We'll be back with the Mountain West college basketball episode just to get my thoughts on the first games for each team. We'll probably do that either Wednesday or Thursday, so keep an eye on that. Look, we're on the march to 100 YouTube subscribers, so tell your friends. Tell everything at what's going on here on the Sports Sentiment YouTube channel. To all those on the listening side, hop on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a lot as we try to build the brand. Just talking college hoops, college football, taking a deep dive on the Mountain West. It's been a whole lot of fun, covering these teams, bringing it onto this platform, and just overall appreciate everybody's support. So we'll be back within the next couple of days. Enjoy the games throughout the sports calendar. It's a fun time of the year. And, as always, I'm your host, Nick Urias, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.